Hello and welcome back to New Paradigm Healing. This series focuses on ayahuasca-assisted therapy. Our intention is to educate, inform, and support the conscious and responsible use of ayahuasca in the Western context. If you want to know more about ayahuasca-assisted therapy and our upcoming trainings and workshops, sign up for our mailing list to be the first one to know about the latest news at avatarhealingarts.com. Hello and welcome to all of our listeners. This is Nina with Casey with the Ayahuasca Assisted Therapy podcast. And today in this episode, we're going to talk about preparation for an ayahuasca journey and just everything that happens before the ceremony. That's what we're going to focus on today. We talked about this topic a little bit, in other episodes, but a lot of people asking this type of questions. So we're going to just do this episode really going through some of our experiences and what we learned, so you can just make an informed decision and choose, the best path that serves you, the highest way. So welcome, Casey. Thank you for joining today.
Thanks for having me again.
I'm excited to dive in, and let's start with just talking about our experience a little bit. So your first experience when you first did, like, how was that before? What happened before, you actually went to a ceremony?
I had decided to go to Peru maybe 4 months before I started the journey, and I had no clue what ayahuasca was. I didn't even know how to say the name. I had never heard of it, but something just stood out. There was a friend of mine who was kind of putting together this trip, and it was a woman from my hometown who was running it, her and her husband. So there was that trust factor there. And had that not been there, that probably would have shifted my decision. But because I knew somebody, there was a personal contact with that, going all the way to another country to do this kind of medicine wasn't anything that I would have trusted outside of having a contact.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I can relate to that. With my story, I really did not know nothing about this medicine or where is it coming from and the culture behind it. And I was really, really naive at the beginning, but it was very similar, my story, that I had a contact, that I had personal trust and confidence in this person, and I got this opportunity, and I trusted this person and this calling, and that's how I kind of ended up in Peru as well. And I think, like, I heard so many stories like this also during the years, that people go in very naive without proper preparation. Just as we did. That's why we are doing this podcast, right? To educate people and to help people who are making these decisions right now. But one thing I would like to highlight here is that personal contact and trust. So, and we both said that we had that. And I think that's one of the important factors that I would really recommend to people, that you have a personal contact. So somebody who you personally know went there, and they told you your experience, or you can get into groups or organizations online, or join, or ask the people. For example, if you are interested in a center or a retreat, ask the organizers to provide you with references, so to say, like a contact who you can call and talk to. For example, when I receive new clients, I always offer them to, if they want to talk to somebody who did this program with me, then I give them options, to have, a perspective from a client's perspective, right? So that is something that is very important. I would like to talk about the calling, what we call the calling. What is this calling means to you? Did you have a calling, and how did that calling come to you?
Yeah, good question. It was pretty there. I was in a space in my life where things just had to shift. I was starting this new photography business. I really wasn't in a headspace to even know what it was that who I was, what it was that I wanted, what it was in this world, what this world even means. And that was the kind of soul message that I got, was through going through this process, I would be able to navigate maybe that 24th dimension self, maybe access that higher self, maybe see that higher self. And I did. In the fifth ceremony of being in the jungle, I met my higher self. And I didn't know what that meant before that day. And it took me months and months and months to even know that that's what that was and integrate it. And so it was for sure a soul calling to figure my shit out and to heal because of all of the trauma and abuse and talk therapy and EMDR therapy and all of these different therapies that I've tried in the past. I still wasn't able to let go of those things that weren't serving me, those lower vibrational things. So as time has gone, I've been able to slowly let go. But gosh, I thought that that was going to be the answer, not the door that opened. So it was the beginning of my journey, not the middle, not the end. It was the very seed that planted to show me what it was that I was capable of, what my heart looked like, what love looked like, honestly. Yeah.
Absolutely, I can so resonate with that. So, okay, this is again very common. I think a couple of things I would like to highlight what you mentioned. So, a lot of people experience this need for change and a type of urgency. So, you're feeling that you don't know maybe why you are not feeling good, or what is that is not working, or what is that you exactly want. You might be confused, but you definitely have this sense of something needs to change, something needs to shift, and it has to happen now. So that is very common with people, before that people come, or some people come to a breaking point already, and they are like, wow, it's a change is needed and the choice has to be made. And then the other common kind of theme that I also experience many times is the need to go to deeper, the need to go to the root of the problem. So as you said, many people, including myself, you had discovered other tools, practices you were practicing, so on and so forth. And we still kind of were suffering, and we were still feeling that even though, a lot of healing and integration happened in our lives, and it's not the first time that you kind of embarked on this type of journey, but still something is still there, and you need to go deeper, and you need to find out, what is the reason where these things are coming from, to really create like fundamental change in your life. So I think that's another common element. So what was that that you why you chose this particular tool or path? Like just because you had this friend and had this contact, or it was some kind of other kind of intuitive, why did you choose this particular path?
It was a combination of some things. One was financial. So I had a project that came through around that same time of booking it. So it gave me the capability of like financially going, because that was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing was I was now working for myself, so I could take the time, not in the corporate world, to actually take the space to go and come back and integrate in a way that wasn't back to my old life. And the other thing was the just intuition that I had that something had to shift, and it was in front of my face. And it sounded like 2.5 weeks, 2 weeks or whatever in the jungle without technology and without the distractions, and on a no salt, no oil diet. And even with the screening process was pretty intense with the place that I went to. So I was impressed with the questioning, all of the meetings prior to going and getting on the flight, the organizing. Like there was a lot of that was just taken care of because somebody was leading that job in our group. And so, yeah, there's there were a lot of different components on why I chose it, but it was the jungle. It was a soul answer. I just knew that I needed to go, and I had these things that I needed to work out. So just the peaceful jungle was a huge attraction.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your experience. One thing that is important for people to understand that this is a journey, this is not an event. And we talked about this before. And I do believe that your journey starts when you say yes to this path. You know, when you say, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go to this retreat, or I'm going to travel, or I'm going to go, like when you commit and you say yes to this calling, that what we are talking about, that is your beginning of your journey. And many people describe that they have kind of processes, so to say, and things coming up before the ceremony, because I feel that the medicine is really working with you once you say yes and make this kind of commitment. And then as Casey was mentioning, the ceremony itself is like an initiation. That's how I perceive it. When you are crossing a threshold, when you are opening a door into a new space, you know, it's a type of expansion, and really some people say that's the real beginning, you know. So you can have different perspectives on this. I think it's the beginning when you say yes, and then it's a type of there is a preparation, and then there is a type of initiation is the ceremony itself. And then we talk about the integration that, you know, we talked about a lot, and we'll continue talking about, that happens after the ceremony. And this is where most of the changes take place, and the embodiment happens, and, you know, the healing and everything unfolds. So it's important. I think that's another thing that I would like to highlight, that you understand that it's not a one night stand, it's not an event. So you take time for your journey, you take time for the preparation, for whatever is your context for the ceremonial aspect or part, and for the integration as well. So taking time off from your life to focus on this and to dedicate yourself and to receive, you know, through this experience all that you can, is very important. That you create space and time for that in your life, and you are not going for a weekend with the ayahuasca and then Monday you are in an office back to work 8 hours a day. That's not the best choice that you can make, let's just say that. And with the preparation in particular, what Casey was mentioning, another good, I think, element to highlight is what happens before the ceremony. So if you choose a center, a place, or a person who will, you know, create the ceremonial space, what happens before you go there. So for example, if they are in contact with you and they only focus on that, you send them the money and they do not require any information from you, about your medical history, for example, if they do not have any pre-consultation or screening. So if these people only want you to pay for the thing and don't care about nothing else, then please don't go to that place, because it's very irresponsible and unprofessional. And every, you know, integral healing space and healers will do a serious pre-screening. As Casey was mentioning, I do like an hour free consultation with people, you know, before they commit or they decide. So and there are contraindications. There are situations when this is maybe not the best choice for people, you know, to do this. So that is very, very important. If you have any medical condition, then it's even more important that they screen you. They talk about if you're taking any medication. Again, mentioning that, for example, if you are any type of SSRIs for depression, that's contraindicated. You cannot be on medications with this medicine, with this particular medication. You have to detox yourself from this. So this requires personal assistance from the people who are leading that space, and they will guide people how to prepare, how to detox in their particular case, what they need to do, you know, and also screen them if this is the best choice for them. So if you have no screening, then that's like a huge red flag of that maybe this is not the best place for you to go to. Okay, anything about this, Casey, that you would like to add?
Yeah, I would. First, well, talking about it now and looking back from the very beginning of this process, and you were talking about like the plants or spirit medicine, like reaching out beforehand. And it was right whenever I said yes, that the trees and things just started communicating, and like the little tiny knowings. And that was really the beginning. But yeah, the whole consultation part, the preparation, the diet, all of it, if there was not a guide to help me, I wouldn't know what to do. But you do have to have a very pure body. There was even like people who went and didn't do any of the medicine, just would connect it to their third eye because of heart conditions or depression or medication that they couldn't get off, of. And then also something I wanted to bring up is there's a lot right now, or maybe not a lot, but it's for sure one story on social media where there was like a healer or a shaman that was like sexually assaulting, making women uncomfortable. And that's something I never even thought about going into it. But now with social media and all of these things coming out, it would make me think twice about where I'm going and who I'm trusting, because there's a lot of things out there that I wouldn't trust that spiritual opening around if it weren't something my soul was very certain of, and my brain too. Like it would have to make sense.
Absolutely, and thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, this type of behavior, I think, like for example, sexual harassment is, you know, unfortunately, is not just in these circles, but it's like in every area. It is it is happening, and that's definitely that we need to become aware of and heal, you know, together. But again, just coming back to when you are making a choice regarding the space where you are going to and the people who you're gonna trust to lead you through this experience, you have to do research. And today, if you have a computer and internet, it's not difficult to do research. And yeah, if something happens, people will post it and you will be able to find it. And definitely these things are happening with a couple of people are indicated. You can research that and you can find out very easily what are those places that are kind of compromised, and obviously don't go there, so we don't you know, participate in this kind of activities. Then these places will cease to exist, you know. And I think that's a good way of dealing with it, that we have to educate ourselves and take the responsibility for our choices, you know. So when you are making a decision, it has to based on obviously logic and doing research and educating yourself, and intuition, what we talked about, a calling, a trust, a feeling, personal connection, so on and so forth. And your choice comes together from these two elements. So you have rationality and you do research, and then you have intuition as well. And if both of them telling you that this is the right thing to do, then you go ahead with that, right? So just because you trust a person because it's your friend for 30 years and they are saying, oh, you have to come to this place, it's not sure that it will serve you the same way as maybe it served your friend. And so, you know, relying on simply just blind trust or personal connection, it can be also not balanced. Or relying only on logic, you know, and research, and ignoring your personal feelings and intuition, that can be also, you know, create problems and situations. So what is really important, I think, what I believe is setting an intention. So we're going to talk a little bit about the intention and what do we mean by that, and a little bit about set and setting. So when you work with any kind of psychedelic medicines, we talk about set and setting as two factors that influence your experience to a great extent. And what does it mean is that you have a set refers to your mindset. So your mindset and what you're thinking, what are your expectations, what is your mindset when you are going into the ceremony, what is your intention, so on and so forth. And the setting is the physical environment and also mental, emotional, energetic environment, all kinds of environment that you are in when you are going through the experience. So these two things will greatly shape your experience. So that's why if you take the same substance, you know, on a party, on a festival, or you take it in a sacred, ritualistic way with for healing and prayer, you're gonna have completely different experience, you know, even though you can use the same medicine or the same substance. So therefore, the intention that you are going forward for this whole journey is I believe is crucial, because it was my experience that I observed that I always had this very clear intention that I'm doing this for healing and self-discovery. Like, and that was my intention. I want to know myself and heal myself and learn and be in service, you know, for myself to the world. And how can I serve, and how can I learn, and how can I know myself? That was my intention. And I was always guided to very safe places with integrity, with beautiful people. And I can say it's really my experience. I never been in a bad, well, I don't know, it's you know, depends on your perception what is good or bad for you, but I never been assaulted, or I never had any kind of these stories, you know, with people with lack of integrity. I somehow always, you know, connected. And I believe that a big part of it was that my intention was very clear, you know, why I am doing this. And sometimes if you don't have a clear intention, you still have an intention, because everybody has intentions, expectations, you know, we are human. So, but if you're not clarifying that and consciously setting that intention, then, you know, you might not be aware of what is that you are sending out unconsciously, maybe, or from trauma or from wounding, you know. And this can lead you into situations that you might experience as you know, traumatic or negative or bad experience. But I think it's just a question of perspective, you know, how you look at in the bigger context, you know, why you are going through that experience, and why did you ended up there, and what happened to you, what does that mean to you, and what can you learn from this experience. And obviously, you know, I'm not advocating it, you know, that if somebody assaults you, that is a good thing. Absolutely not. But I'm just saying that because you are an energetic being, we are spiritual beings made up of energy, you know, everything is energy. Your thoughts are energy, and your intentions and thoughts are very powerful things, because you create with your mind. And, you know, this has a great influence. So I would say that, you know, big part of the preparation is to set a clear intention, or to have somebody help you to prepare and help you to set this intention. And then you are kind of sending that very strong and clear signal out in the universe, and you're gonna, with the low vibration, you know, you're gonna attract and connect with people, places, you know, and events that are matching that vibration. And I do believe that this is working like this. It worked like this for me and for many people that I've seen. So what are your thoughts on that, Casey?
First thing is setting your intention. So each ceremony that I've participated in, I've spoken or said either out loud or to myself what my intentions are for that ceremony. And they were different each time. Healing was always a part of it. But they were different as I've gone through different ceremonies in the past like year and a half. But I was in one, the last one that I participated in, which kind of gave me this huge realization that the medicine was me. And so this whole like, oh, okay, like I can connect with God and spirit without being in these ceremonies. But it was a very aggressive, I guess it would be a good word, a very aggressive ceremony, that I had never been a part of one aggressive before. So there was a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, a lot of get your stuff out, that kind of projection. And the ones that I had been in previously had been very personal. You are on your own personal journey. You're on your little yoga mat in your space with your bucket and your water, and you're shaking, you're going through your own personal purge, but it wasn't people getting it out of you. So that one was a little bit different. And I can see how that would be beneficial, but that's for sure something I would ask before another ceremony, because it for sure wasn't aligned with me, because I had had spiritual abuse and stuff as a child. So there were some triggering points. Maybe that was good to trigger. I'm not sure. I'm still to this day processing that ceremony. But I will say that taught me that they are all very different. And sometimes that, I guess there are more aggressive ones.
Yes, that's another thing that good to mention about expectations. I think, that's another thing that even though many people say don't have any expectations, we do have expectations because we are human. So let's bust some myths here. And one of the biggest expectations that I've seen with people, that they do have an expectation to the ceremony in specific, that it has to be this psychedelic journey. They have to go on this psychedelic journey and see things and beings and in this other world and so on and so forth. And many times, you can have experiences which actually not visual or psychedelic based on your definition of psychedelic. You don't have maybe visuals, maybe you don't feel altered. Maybe you're just like, I don't feel anything. Maybe it's very physical for you and not psychedelic or mental, emotional. It can be very mental, your process that is not physical or emotional or psychedelic. It could be just a total mental process. It could be very, very emotional. And it's just emotions cleansing and washing. Like, it can be so many things. It can be so subtle, the work that the medicine is doing, that you are not aware what's happening. And you think nothing is happening and there is something wrong, or this is not working for me. So I would like to share my perspective on this, because if you understand that you are coming, into kind of communion, not in a religious way, but in connection with a higher intelligence, a higher state of consciousness, and you are going in with a prayer and an intention, and you're surrendering, to that. And then you question that, oh, maybe she didn't do a good job, or this infinite divine consciousness just made a mistake, because I didn't have the right experience. So think about it this way, the type of arrogance in a way, now you either trust and believe, that you receive because, you are going asking for something. This implies that you don't know. You don't know the answer. You don't know what to do, and then you receive something that you interpret in a certain way, and you say, hey, you didn't give me anything, or you didn't give me what I wanted, or, I mean, come on, it's like kind of funny to think about it from this perspective. And my experience is absolutely 100%. Your ceremony experience makes total sense in the light of the integration. When people are going through the integration and we unfold the whole story, it really comes out. Why was that significant? So for example, if somebody say, okay, this is not working for me. Everybody had an experience and nothing happened to me. So there was something wrong. This already bringing up stuff that is like, how do you think about yourself? This is your worldview, that all the other people can do it, there's something wrong with, I couldn't, that's part of your process, that's part of the revelation, that's part of the medicine teaching you and showing you your mindset and why you are stuck and why you cannot manifest what you want, so on and so forth. But often you don't understand this in the ceremony because you have a specific expectation, and then you don't see, what is there, or you are so involved in your own story that you cannot see. And that's why you need integration, and that's why you need guides, to help you to understand, and create the changes, that you want to really create. So I believe there is no good or bad experiences. I believe the experience is that what you have to have in that moment. Maybe you don't understand why with your mind in that moment, but my experience is that it's long term. You can really understand and see if you pay attention. It's a kind of like also like decoding information. This world is not like our material world. We need to translate, and with the mind also, to understand on that level, and that's also sometimes takes time. So
I think with
yeah.
these ceremonies, like because they are so spiritual, um, because of my past and having spiritual abuse as a child, it made me wonder the aggressiveness and what let me see how I want to phrase this. What are the potentials of spiritual attacks? Is that even something that you've seen? Is that something that happens? Because those are the things that I feel like I don't want to bring myself vulnerable to, are other things that maybe I hadn't quite learned how to protect myself from, that I'm now learning. But those were the thoughts that were going through my head, were these, is it possible to be spiritually attacked when you are on, in theogens and in a space of this spiritual awakening with other souls that you may not know?
Absolutely. I mean, as we talked about, we are spiritual beings. We are made up of energy vibrating on different, frequency. And when you work with this particular plant, the ayahuasca, you're definitely in a more expanded state. Everybody knows that, whoever been with this medicine. And that means that you are more open as well. You are more open. So you can receive things more, you can also let go things easier, it works both ways. You are more expanded, more open. That's why we need the ceremony. The ceremony is creating a safe place in the container, and it's good that you brought this up. So how you can protect yourself on every level. There is physical protection, sexual protection, mental, emotional, spiritual, of course. There are all these levels exist. You are existing on all these levels. That's why we are talking about preparation. And this is the spiritual aspect of preparation, how to create a spiritually safe place, where healing can happen and not more trauma, obviously. And big part of it is, as I see it, as was we talked about, you setting a high vibe intention, that your intention is to heal, is to serve, is to remember, to awaken. These are kind of, high vibe intentions. So that is a determining factor, your intention. That's, if you are like, hey, I want to connect with like spirits, that's the intention too. And you're gonna, but you don't specify what kind of spirits or whatever, like, that could again create situation when there you are and maybe you didn't set the right intention. And then the other factor is obviously the person who is creating the ceremony. So the shaman or the people who lead the circle, not every case it has to be a shaman, but there are people who are trained and experienced, in holding and creating these spaces. And this is very necessary with this particular medicine, because exactly what you said, So the shaman and the leaders of the circle will create the ritual that is the spiritual protection and the safety that will create a safe place. That's why in traditional circles, they don't allow you to leave the space unless you go to the bathroom or something, and then you have to go back because you understand that is the safe place, that is the place that is created, and you want to be in there, while you are on this journey. So I think these two factors, the people, you have to choose the right people who have experience and who know how to create these spaces, and also with your intention, you can do a lot, to protect yourself. Like, is this answer to your question?
Mm-hmm. I love what you said, because it's like your intention needs to match the facilitator's intention. And I think it's important to know your facilitator's intention, or your healer or your shaman. So they should speak the same intention of, they're there to hold space and heal and help heal, or help create space for you to heal, whatever their intention is, if it's aligned. But then that trust value, it's really hard to trust yourself in that space. So yeah, I can't even express that enough.
Well, that is the element of surrender, and I think this
Mm-hmm.
is kind of good note to kind of wrap up that. I think Osho said that life is your ideas, and this just like stuck, in my mind. And I do believe when you work with this particular medicine, the ayahuasca, you are going into another reality and going into the mystery, so there is no way of knowing really what will happen. Nobody will be able to tell you. So there is like an element of surrender and trust that is needed, after you researched, after you had personal interview, after you ticked everything that you could possibly do. There is this element that you just cannot make 100% sure, and you need to surrender. I think a lot of people or think or interpret this word that you give your power over to somebody, even if that is God. There is somebody outside of you giving your power away, and that doesn't feel good, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't feel good. That's not what it's about for me. It's for me is to really recognize that my mind is limited. My human conscious mind is kind of stupid. It's kind of very limited, so the mystery that is life, I cannot understand with that limited tool, so I surrender to my higher aspect, my higher self, soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, source energy, and I do trust that I did all the preparation. I put all my intentions. I'm praying and asking for healing. I'm responsible, like you do it in a sacred, responsible way with the highest intention. And I trust that everything that comes to me will serve that intent. I have to trust that that's what it means for me to surrender. It has to be an element of trust, because you can never figure out. And after so many years, every time before I sit in a circle, I have this, you might perceive as nervousness, but it's just the feeling that I have respect and humbleness, know that I'm going into the mystery, and I don't know everything, and I'm here to learn, and I think that is like an important factor after everything, so do you relate to this? Do you had that, part when you were like, okay, I surrender?
It took me a very long time, and I still struggle with surrendering. I am not pretending I have this mastered whatsoever. Even allowing the medicine to be, or just allowing the medicine to work, it was like in my head at the time, I wasn't worthy to be fixed, worthy of being fixed. And so I had to heal some of those things before I could even surrender. So it was integration before I was surrendering. Like, I would do the best I could, but I didn't know what that meant.
Absolutely. No, I am also in that process, because we are educated and conditioned to control everything and to try to control everything. And that's the opposite of surrender. So it's kind of, it is a learning process for sure. I want to mention some contraindications in terms of preparation. So one of the things that people ask me about is age limit. How old you have to be to do this. That really depends on the place. There are spaces where you can bring in children as well, and families participate. There are spaces for that, and there are spaces that specify that it has to be only adults. I don't think there is a upper age limit. I never heard about that, but yeah, that could be. It's very specific. You need to investigate this, in terms of age, and also contraindications wise, as we said, if you are on serotonin blockers, SSRIs, if you are have schizophrenia or psychotic episodes, or were treated with psychiatric medicines for these reasons, that's definitely something that needs to have individual. I don't want to say that you can never do this, because I don't believe that's true, but it has to be with that kind of guidance and preparation, who are confident to lead you through that experience. And again, pregnancy could be contraindicated, but again, I had personally friends who were pregnant and sit in ceremony, although they didn't take the amount of medicine. So, and again, that is depends on tradition and the circle and so on and so forth. So that has to be, it's very individual. That's why you want to have professional experienced people who are dealing with it, because it depends on the individual. And that's one of the gifts of this medicine, that even though we all drink the same medicine that is prepared in the same way, prayed over the same way, and we are sitting in the same setting, but we will have completely different experiences and journeys, depending on our individual needs and desires. So that is, the intelligence of this medicine. And just to finish with, I really want to bring in again just the spiritual aspect and the sacredness. If you think about it, maybe I can compare it to wedding, in terms of magnitude and sacredness. So you imagine you get married, you prepare for that in so many ways, and there's a lot that goes into it. And then you have a beautiful dress, and it is an occasion that you want to put everything in and prepare, beautify yourself and be ready and remember. So I think it's a good way to approach this journey, is that you remember that everything is sacred. You are sacred. This is a sacred ceremony, and you are sacred, and you are going into a sacred space and on a sacred journey, because everything is sacred. So please don't go after night out the next day. Oh, I heard there is a ceremony, now I'm going to sit there. Like, that's really not how it is done, and how this medicine should be approached. And the medicine will teach you that for sure, if you choose that path. And I don't think it will be very pleasant in a way. So yeah, did you experience this sacredness and this ceremonial part of when you work with this medicine?
Absolutely. I don't know another way.
Right.
I stepped into it in the spiritual ceremonial space. So yeah, I have never ever had like been under any kind of entheogen outside of that sacred space. And I've even done ceremonies by myself that are the same. I set the space, I set the intention, I all of that whenever I've done work, solo as well.
Absolutely. Yes. Like, even to meditate, even to, pray, or to do a little altar or whatever, like this ceremonial aspect. I think a lot of people experience this if you work with this particular medicine, that you have a more like connected, you integrate that spiritual aspect in your life, and your life is becoming this ceremony in a way, not in a religious way, but ceremonial way of doing things and looking at things, and knowing that it's all spiritual, in a way. And I definitely feel that more and more and more, through this connection, as you described as well. All righty. I hope that, I think we covered most of the things. Yeah, the guide, have a guide. The most important, just to remind people that if you never did this, if you do not know how to prepare, if you do not have integration therapist or coach or guide who can help you to integrate and create healing space and safe place for your journey after the ceremony, then please make sure that you have supportive environment and you have experienced people, who can assist you. And it's wise to ask for help. It's wise to ask for guidance, because as we said, you're going into the unknown, you're going into the mystery. So that can ease your journey a lot, when you have safe containers that, like-minded people and trained therapists and guides and experienced helpers, you can help you to create that. So, and it's very, very important, as we said, because it's a journey, it's not an event. So yeah, have help, have supportive environment, reach out for help. Help is always available. It's like a lot of people now getting involved in this and offer, support people before and after their, in their journey. So please do your research. And of course, you can reach out to me and go to my website, avatarhealingarts.com. And I also have a lot of content, so you can just educate yourself also while you are going through your experience. And there's a lot of content out there. Thankfully, it's growing, that can support you to understand and to navigate your process. But the best is if you have people helping you, not the internet. Do you have like a little circle and, that is, and this type of support, and how do you find, how important is that for you, that you have that space?
It's been a process throughout my journey, but I do have people and support. It's not necessarily like ceremonial space, but I do like ecstatic dance classes and sound baths and sound healing and things like that, that has the same kind of support, cacao ceremonies, to all sorts of places like that. I just, yeah. And I've got people for certain things that I, would need support with, but it's been interesting finding those people aligned and trusting those people, because that the surrender of it all, and knowing that the people in my life are for my highest good, and sometimes they're not. So, it's listening and trusting. And I think in any situation, there's going to be things that benefit and maybe people that aren't so beneficial. So, a lot of it's been a process of just changing my environment, completely shifting my environment, slowly shifting my environment. But those all become very clear, what is serving and what's not. It's not a question. It's just a matter of when are you going to listen?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I think that's one of how you can gauge your progress in terms of integration and embodiment, how much your life changed and how much your relationships changed. Because, that's a big indicator as you are going, because it's going to shift and change big time, once you are going through this healing process with intention and with commitment. And so definitely, if you're keep going for ceremonies and your life is the same and nothing is really changing, then I think that can be a sign that you need integration. You need more integration to embody, to be able to create change, because that is the reason why this medicine is serving us. This is the way how she's serving us, help us to create the change that we want to create, but we need to create that change. We always talk about this. You are the healer, we are the healers, and love is the medicine, and we need to take action. So I hope that this was helpful for all of our listeners. If you have more questions that we didn't cover, please just write to us or leave a comment, and yeah, sign up and subscribe for my new YouTube channel, Healing and Awakening with Nina Itzel. We're gonna upload all the ayahuasca assisted therapy podcasts there, also on a separate playlist, so people can access it on YouTube as well. So I'm very excited about that. And yes, join me on Clubhouse, which is a really cool app. And I have Tuesdays, 5 p.m. EST, an ayahuasca group there, an ayahuasca room for an hour and a half. It's an interactive room where you can just share or ask questions, and we'll talk everything about, ayahuasca assisted therapy. So sending lots of love and hugs out to the world, or prayers to the world. Thank you, Casey, for being here with me today. Oceans of love to all of you.
Thank you for having
Have a
me.
wonderful, magical day.